And welcome to this video. My name is Scott King, Coach Scott King, and I got an email. Super excited about the email. They were looking for applications to be a presenter at the WNBA in Vegas for 2025. And as I was looking through the requirements, they wanted a live video of a presentation done in front of a live audience. So I got super excited about it because I actually did a presentation at Marquee in Chicago in 2024, and I love talking about the power of persuasion and all the things that I learned within NLP and hypnosis and how that all played into me being able to build my business. And I've had six-figure growth for a few years, and then last year I was able to beat the numbers even still. It wasn't six-figure growth, but it's super exciting. So glad I had the opportunity to be able to present there and present it to you guys. So the panelists, thank you for checking out this video. It is my first presentation. It is me getting my start, and thank you again, and I'll see you soon. Thanks. Here we are, guys. How are you? How's everybody? Well, my name is Scott King from Orlando, Florida. I grew my business to over six figures. I'll share some numbers with you here in just a little bit. And all of my training, most of my training comes from hypnosis and NLP. So I really love talking about one-on-one sales. That's just something that I love. Now, I'm still learning the one-to-many because that's a little bit of a different hurdle. You just change a few words around, but still, one-to-one is pretty much what I fell in love with. So let's do an example real quick. Everybody go ahead, stand up. Perfect. Oh, and go ahead and shake hands with the person next to you, right? Perfect. And go ahead and shake it off, right? Shake it off. And let's just try a simple little experiment. Go ahead and put your hands out in front of you and then put your palms up. Go ahead and close your eyes. So I want you to imagine that on your right hand that I put a brick that is 10 pounds on your right hand, and as you focus on your right hand, it just becomes heavier and heavier and heavier. Now on your left hand, I went ahead and tied a helium balloon to it, and it just becomes lighter and lighter and lighter. But on your right hand, the more you think about it, the heavier it gets, and on your left hand, it just becomes lighter the more you think about it. Now go ahead and open up your eyes. So this is a little bit of a test. Oh, I know, right? So when we
Stone cold focus. Right?
so you guys can go ahead and sit down, and that was just so basically, what that told me was that you're less suggestible to hypnotic commands. Now, when we talk about building our company, right? Again, before we get into that, a little bit about me. Been DJing since 1995. I moved to Florida, Walt Disney World, Universal Studios, traveled the country, been outside the country to DJ, built my company to six figures, and it keeps growing. And I pretty much just got bored. I was like, what's next? Like, what can I do? I was like, let's teach people these, learnings that I learned, because I teach it. I don't know if anybody online is with the online marketers, right? Like Billie Jean is someone I spend a ton of money with. I learned a bunch of stuff from hypnosis, got certified there. And then Grant Cardone took some classes there, and just pretty much all the teachings that I did was what I was able to use in order to build my company. And again, here are some numbers just to show you that I knew what I was doing, or at least thought I knew what I was doing, and I could show you there's been proof and success. And I started out in 2021. Well, 2020 really was like 20,000 because nothing was going on that year. I'm sure you guys suffered the same thing, right? But since it was so slow, I had all this time to learn and grow and figure out, what makes people tick. So what makes people tick is that I got to prove to you that I can do the job, and pretty much that's what I'm showing you here. That I know how to do it. But can I do it for you? As the presentation goes along, you guys can decide for yourself. But in 2020, I had like 20,000, and then I moved up to 100,000, and then I did like 160,000 growth from this year to this year, and then like an $80,000 growth from this year to this year, and then over on 2024, I've almost caught 2022, and I still have 6 months left to go. So you can only book as many shows as there are out there, right? So I don't know if I'll be able to beat this again, but it's there. I have something to chase, right? And then I ended up getting this huge event that was $15,000 from, did anybody know Gary Sinise?
Mm-hmm.
So Gary Sinise has this snowflake event where these children have fallen soldiers, and he brings them all to Disney. So I had this $15,000 contract that I did, and it's all from, you know, all the stuff that I put into play that we'll talk about here. So we pretty much did the experiment, and what that says is like one of the biggest things people have problem with is building rapport. And it's kind of like, how do you build rapport, right? So it starts off pretty simple. If you take away anything, you want yes questions. I know Alan was on stage earlier today and he was talking about no questions, but when you use no questions, you want to, you know, use consequence with that. When you ask a no question, it's kind of like you don't want a bad DJ at your wedding, do you? On the most important day of your life. And then when they say no, it's a consequence that they're saying no to, and yet that could be worth as much as 3 yeses. In hypnosis land, we don't really talk about no's too much because we want everybody to be in rapport with us, so we say the yes questions. And I personally don't like consequence because that's what I did when I was a DJ. I worked under a narcissist and he would use consequence, and I didn't even know what that meant at the time, and then I ended up, you know, leading down the path of fixing myself with hypnosis. But anyway, so we want yes questions. One of the DJs that I was training on the showroom floor, he would ask, do you have a DJ for your event? And then they would say no. Well, you're already off to no rapport. The question that you want to have, you want to try and shoot for 3 yeses. You know, do you have entertainment? Do you need entertainment for your big day? And then they will say yes. Well, okay. Well, they said yes. They're in rapport with you, and they've been qualified to be somebody that could possibly give you money, right? So once you ask them yes, you ask them their name, and that's the most important thing on the planet to somebody. Is their name. You use their name as much as possible, and that's another way to build rapport. And then also, once you get the yes questions out, like do you need entertainment for your big day, and is your name this, is this how you say it? You ask these questions so they keep saying yes. I mean, you don't want to be like super obvious about what you're doing, but you want them to be in rapport with you. And then after you get a few yes, then you do a compliance set. Compliance is pretty much what we did here. I had you guys stand up, you know, you did the thing with the hands, and then now, you know, we're in compliance and we're in rapport. So these things become perpetual, right? So once you have agreed, it only becomes perpetual if I don't ask you to do something that doesn't make any sense, and then that throws you off track. So now that we're all in rapport, we all have our perpetual gains. Now that we understand how that works, rapport, is your name this? Be clear, King. So this is something I do in Zoom calls. How would you gain rapport in a Zoom call? I ask this simple question: is your name this? And I already know what their name is because they filled out their forms, right? And then they've got all these emails. But they have to say yes. If I say that's the name, the next thing I say is, can you hear me? And then they'll say yes. And then if they say no, we've got a compliance set. I make them turn up the volume on their phone or turn up the volume on their end. And now, sneakily, we have rapport. And I didn't do anything outside the box, because you could take some NLP classes or some other types of sales classes and they'll tell you like, well, if this person folds their hands, and then you should fold your hands, which is cool. But if you're leading the way and you already know what the blueprint is, there you go. You got them where you want them. So again, yes sets before compliance sets. So you want to make sure they get people's name and have them saying yes, and then you can give them commands and then they can do things. As long as it's all within their value structure and it all makes sense. Because there are some people out there that will just throw a monkey wrench in the spokes, and you're like, what's going on here? So something that isn't talked about a whole lot inside of the wedding industry is because we pretty much already know what our avatar is, right? Do you guys know what an avatar is? Have you had that kind of class before? Basically, an avatar is who is the person that's going to buy your service. So basically, it's someone that is getting married, right? Perfect. They're going to be 25 to 35 years of age, probably, right? These are just, if you had to throw something on the wall and you're going to make an ad for somebody, who would you want to say yes to your stuff, right? Mostly women I'm talking to these days. And then, maybe somebody who buys like a cheaper venue. Maybe you don't want to be that person to be your customer or whatever. So, depending on what venue they have, right? And how many guests, if they tell you how many guests they have, how much budget they're going to have, because they're expecting to feed 200 people. Well, they're going to have a little budget for whatever your service is. And then, of course, this may sound a little bit weird, but this will come into play if you do Facebook marketing, right? So if you say someone asks someone who makes over 50K a year. So when it comes to Facebook marketing, they took away, what they make for a salary, right? So you can actually take your Facebook marketing and plug it into a zip code that is expensive. Like over in Orlando, we have this place called Windermere, which is where all the billionaires live. So if I wanted to take my ads, either Google or Facebook, I could just, use the 34786 area code in whatever community or town, part of the world you live in. I'm sure you have, ghettos versus like rich neighborhoods, and those are probably the ones that you want to focus your advertising to. And then, of course, you'll also notice when I talk to people, I want them to be able to show their personality and who they are through videos. And as you do that, you will notice that you attract a certain type of person. We can get into more of the personality types, but when it comes to your ad, very important things to keep in mind, right? Does your ad speak to your audience, right? There was one guy, he DJ company, and he put up uplights. Oh, make sure to get uplights for your event, which is great, right? Like, but that goes into the features versus benefits, right? So nobody buys a car because it has air conditioning. They buy the car because the air conditioning makes the air cold. So the air conditioning would be the feature, and the benefit would maybe be the air being cold, right? So when it comes to your ads, back to the other guy that was selling his uplights. Like, he didn't explain, like, oh, these uplights could change the room into your wedding colors. He's just like, oh, here's some uplights, and this is what it looks like. Instead of explaining why I would want this service. Because that's the thing, right? You're the professional in your field. My favorite thing to do is to lead with an educational pitch. Because even my videos, right? Like that's how the whole process works. Like, someone who hits me up, oh, what are your prices? I'm like, okay, why don't you go check out this video that I made? It looks professional. And when you're done with that, you spend your 5 minutes watching this video, then we can sit down and talk, because it's not even fair that they won't even be on the same playing field of whatever your profession is, because they're not as educated about it as you are, because you spent your whole life doing it, right? And probably they're not going to be as invested into it as you are, because this is your heart and soul, right? Like, so basically, does your ad explain what you do? And then one of the favorite things I learned when I was first starting out was you got to explain it to people as if they're in 5th grade or something. You want to make sure that it's as simple as possible, like whatever your business is. Like, I help people get more sales. Like, well, how do you do that? Well, then you got to peel away the onions, right? The layers in the onion. So. And like, the most important thing is that you want to make sure to put yourself forward, because people will attract whatever your signal is. Like, you may not even understand what that signal is, but somebody else could hear it, and that could remind them of whatever good times they had, and then now all of a sudden they're talking to you because they feel comfortable with you being the professional. One of the questions I had in my group one is, what's a paid lead versus organic lead? Paid lead is where you go into something like Facebook, and you can do your target marketing, again, 30 miles from wherever you live, or zip codes and that kind of thing. And versus organic lead, where they kind of like stumble upon you and your service. Again, back to persuasion. You want to show them that you're the professional. And this one time I did a cold sparks rental, and it was speaker after speaker after speaker after speaker, and they all did real estate. And every one of them said 12 hit points. Now, for the guys that don't know what a hit point is, right? It could be they saw your Facebook post, or they saw the email, or they saw a text message, and it's what some people refer to it as a drip system, right? You put the phone number and the address in there. 2 days they're getting an email, 3 days they're getting a text message, and then, well, that's the whole goal, right? You want to take them and funnel them to your service, right? You want to, like, someone that's a cold lead doesn't even know who you are, can't connect your name to your service whatsoever. And then the whole goal would be like to warm them up with email campaigns and nurturing campaigns and educational stuff, so that you get them on the same page, and then they can rely on you to give them the service that you offer. Now, even though I have a DJ background, the stuff that I was learning from all the classes that I have taken over the years can be anybody in the service-based industry. And it's important that people understand how marketing works versus sales, right? So I would have to explain it like golf. So when it comes to marketing, like, let's say the guys at the hut, I don't even know what it's called, at the tee, he had the tee, and he hits it, right? So your marketing is gonna, like, the better your marketing, the closer you're gonna get to the hole in one, right? So when you sit down with somebody, you just gotta tip it in. So how does that work, right? It goes with more, once you sit them down to your Zoom call, they didn't ghost you, they trust you as a professional. All you have to do now is tip it in. So how does that work? It goes, oh, all right, so this right here was the most important information that I learned from a stage hypnotist that, like, I tell my whole team about it all the time. So there's 4 main reasons or purposes why people purchase or buy, or reason why people purchase what they're going to get for their service. Like, they have motivators that make that happen, right? So, and then you probably dealt with every single one of these types and just didn't realize it. So, but when you categorize people and when they speak to you, it's easier for you to, if you know there's these 4 buckets, then you know there's certain ways to talk to these types of people, and if you can hear it in their language, then you can, return it back to them. So there's a lot of different categories to go through, but the simplest ones is somebody will buy something based on money. And I'm sure you've dealt with a lot of these types of people. Call you up, they just want the price, and, oh, it's not it, so I'm gonna go somewhere else. And these people could be like wasting your time, tire kicking, or whatever it is they're doing, right? There are other, and I could see it with another company that I work with in Orlando, where he mostly gets money clients. And then you'll also know that money clients have a certain type of characteristics of how they relate to the reality. So somebody who's a money person might be mad or think it's like, oh, this is a lot of money to me, even though they're like paying like the lowest price in the market, right? And then it's a lot of money to them, so they're going to be like the nitpicky ones. Oh, make sure you're doing this and make sure you're doing that. This is something that you'll notice with these types of personality, right? And then you have, security people, which I've found that security people cling to me the most. The people that I hire, the DJs that I got, they have like a regular job during the week, and then they pick up gigs for me on the weekend. But these are the types of people that have, triple of everything. Like, oh, I got 3 speakers if this one goes out. These are the types of people that would have a bomb shelter. So they're the security type. So when someone's talking to you as security, like you want to have little stories for each one of these categories. How would you explain to somebody that you can take care of this security issue that's on their mind? And I usually tell them the story of my van broke down in the middle of the highway. I called up another DJ. We switched all the gear from one van to another. Traffic's going. She's over there holding down the fort, and then we still did the wedding and still made it on time and got a 5-star review. So that's a story for security that you don't have to say, hey, look, I'm a security person. You just tell them the story while you're in the sales pitch, right? And then we have the kinesthetics. Oh my goodness. So these are people that I probably get along with the least, but I'm still working on it. Now, kinesthetic people only move because they need an emotion to move them, right? They only do something if it feels right. so I'm a hectic, I don't have a lot of patience type person, but a kinesthetic, it's not that they're slower, it's just that it takes time for feelings to progress and develop. And I normally clash with this type because they're at a slower pace than I am, because I'm always like talking fast and trying to make things happen. Now, prestige. This is fun, kind of. So the prestige person is the person that's going to dress all sharp and flashy, and they're usually visual people, right? So just to kind of break prestige down for you, I had one of my DJs that loved doing a Solar Bear gig. Now the Solar Bear gig paid $225, but he loved to do it. Didn't care about the money at all, but it was connected to a big name, and that's what the motivator was for this person. So the reason you would want to know about these things is that even with your staff, emotional intelligence, that you can find out what they're looking to do, and then you can then play to those weaknesses or strengths, or however you play to their character, right? So those are for 4 personality types, and it's up to you to ask the questions to be able to figure out which one they are. So basically, prestige is someone who dresses nice, somebody that like would buy the Gucci bag just to show it off to everybody, right? And then we have the kinesthetics who only move if it feels right to them, and basically on a slower pace than what I'm used to, because I'm such a go get 'em type of person. And then we have security people who make sure they have double backups for everything, and then we got the money people that are just looking to get the best deal, don't care too much about the service. But if you know about these people, whether or not you want to spend the time to engage with them. All right, so I'll be quick on these next couple slides. Basically, that's a great exercise to do. think about whatever the issues are that your potential client has, your leads, and then write them all down, right? Budget management, venue selection, staying on time and booking vendors. They have all these issues, right? So you want to be able to tell them that you can help them with these issues, because as a DJ company or as a one-dimensional service, you can only take care of so many different things with the services that you have, right? So the law of reciprocity is pretty important. Simple terms: I scratch your back, you scratch mine. So when you meet with somebody for the first time, let's do this. So when you meet with somebody, you want to be able to handle more of the solutions of just what your service can do. Basically, I ended up creating an app where any vendor can go in and put their logo in, and then they can present it to their leads to help build rapport or set yourself as a professional. The way the app works, there's a whole bunch of different things, right? I can enhance your perception, increase client engagement, and plus you got the data, the data insights, from anybody who has the app. So the way the app works is that you would want to, give that to your lead ahead of time, and then hope that they would come back and sign with you because you did an act, a kind act for them. And then what really can you do with somebody that you don't know, and you sit down with them to build rapport? You give them a gift or in a tool to help them plan their wedding. So what it is so basically, anybody that is a white labeling is basically when you have an idea and then you can give it to somebody else and it could be their idea where they put their own branding and logo. So if you wanted to present an app to your leads, you could put your own logo and branding and say it's powered by me. And then when you're sitting down with someone, to be like, oh, I know you have all these concerns and all these different things, and that's why I, wanted to be in the forefront of all these things. And I want you to have this app so that you can plan your big day, with the hopes that they would come around and sign your contract because you were, extending the olive branch type thing. What does the app do? Helps people out with their budget. Basically, they can put in guesstimates of whatever they think they want to spend on their budget, and then they can actually put in the actual numbers so that they can course correct. Of course, it has a calendar so they can have a timeline to their day. They can add other team members, like other coaches, basically. So if they wanted their fiance or in-laws to be in on the scoop of whatever they're doing or the progress, they can add team members. So it would be all like one big team, on the same page. And then of course they got their budget. They got a checklist, so no leaf goes unturned, right? And then when they check this stuff off, it lets everybody in the circle community know. And then of course, once you've planned out who your vendors are going to be, you can put them all in here. So later down the line, let's say they add a venue and an officiant and a photographer, and then let's say the mother-in-law is like, oh, what's going on with all these vendors? So you can just add her to the team, and now she's all on the same page of everything that you've been doing. So anyway, what's
You got plenty of time. I'm up next. I'm not actually, I have a question. Just I was at a wedding this past weekend, and the planner, right? No. It was good.
Say no more.
She had her own sheet. The DJ had their own sheet, and the venue had their own sheet, and they all didn't align. Is this something that kind of answers, that bridges that gap between all those?
Well, as far as data planning is something I'll add, probably phase 4. I'm in phase 2 right now.
Yeah.
For the data planning, I would just advise someone to use like DJ Event Planner or Google Docs if they didn't want to spend that money for that.
And I think that's one of the things that I think the industry itself needs to bridge that gap, and that's the venues industry, that's the planning industry, and that's the DJ industry. Somehow they all need to come on the same page.
Eventually you'll be able to, because when you add managed participants, you can add your planner, you can add those people, the venue, and then that way they can. And then eventually, like Scott said, we'll be able to have it in a form where everything kind of shows up, and you can send it off to your clients, to your photographer, your videographer, your DJ, your catering, because obviously with catering, a DJ is not going to announce food until the caterer knows.
Yeah, so it just comes down, I think, to this point of getting to get off of their old way of doing things and adopting technology.
That's eventually what we want it to do, is because then everything's in one spot. And then that way you can add anybody. And then as the DJ goes, most times event planners will have their own timeline and they'll send it out to everybody. But this will give every person that you want access to it. And the other thing is, eventually, as your own company, as a white label, say that you partner with a florist, you can push out to your clients that are currently using this app under
you got
your
florist
company.
yet? You know?
Say, hey, if you don't have a florist, so and so is running a promo.
Right.
This is doing this. This is the info. You can push that out to your client, so you can partner. This is something for you as a company to give to your clients to either like Scott said, to kind of be like, hey, I want to give you something in hope, and in the back of your mind is hope that you'll book us. But if you have a client that's already booked, hey, thank you so much for booking us for your event. Here's a free gift and whatnot. And so you would be able to do all of that. And then cool thing is you have access to all of those events.
Yeah.
So you can see that, oh, hey, cool, they got their, photographer, they've got that. Then you as a vendor can always reach out
And
to
you have
that
your data.
person.
And then if
And
you
you
wanted
have
to
all
like
the
be
vendors.
considerate, be like, hey, you haven't done X, Y, and Z yet. You
Yeah.
need help with that? Type thing.
Exactly. So you'll be able to communicate with them as
Yeah.
well and see what they haven't done. And it's strictly for you. So we would have all of it, but if you look at Wedding Wire and the app, it advertises all of these other companies.
Right.
This
It would
is
just advertise
specifically you. Just you, your services, and then you can push out what you want to have. Like, so if they haven't booked you yet, say, hey guys, if you haven't booked us yet for your big day, I'm running a special. Book between now and now, from this date to this date, and you get an additional 10% off.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my god, I totally forgot to get the DJ. But the thing is, this app, this opportunity is a notification saying, oh my gosh, this app is so great. I was like, yeah, I definitely want it, because it shows that you care.
Yeah.
You care for the success of their event.
Questions?
I'm just, my mind's kind of blown because so my best friend's getting married on Friday, and I've been maid of honor and DJ and planner at the same time. So looking at this, I'm like, this would have made my life so much easier if I heard about this
Literally
last
just
year.
Approved it 2 days ago. So
Yeah.
I've been
So it's
working
on the
with team,
it's
now.
on the
Yeah,
download
I'm
on
on
the app
Pakistan
store.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our partners in development are overseas, but we finally have it. So it's on there. Obviously, kind of like any app, there's always things, and so we're always looking like, oh, this could be better. And so being in the industry, like we would.
Yeah. Well, I'm at a phase right now where the app is pretty much free, and I'm just looking for people to sign up for it and then email